So it's nice to have you here. I think this is actually our first HR-related event or meetup that we've had here. So we moved into this office in July, and we're growing quite fast. So we're running out of space. You can probably see if you walk around the office later. But we're super happy to host everyone. And happy to just talk in general about different HR topics, and then hopefully people learn some things from it. And I'm actually the head of employee experience here, so I look after the HR team, and my focus is not actually on recruitment, or hasn't been on that for a while. It's part of the broader scheme of things, so I might need to just ask some people that I used to work with in the audience for some help at some point. So I'll hand you over to Ricardo. It's nice to have you here. Hope you enjoy the event.
Thank you very much. This is the fifth, I think, of the series of events we are doing on the HR topics, and I'm super happy to be here. I've been personally following the company SumUp for years, and we've been talking for a while. So I'm really happy. Today we have a very HR topic, which is whether candidates are or are not customers, and should we should we not treat them as customers. On the other hand, we'll have a discussion on recruiting experience. So should in any way we design and how a candidate experience that is exactly the customer experience our companies are designing. This to me is a really interesting topic, as when we founded Meritocracy back in 2014, we did it after the university, because we didn't like the way people looked for jobs. We found the old job advertising online was really poor, and so we decided to enter with photographers and video makers inside the company to tell their real story, not the story the companies wanted to tell, but the real story, as if we were candidates entering for the first time in a company like SumUp. And then we invested a lot. We raised money from Italian and American investors to build a technology that can deliver that story that we were able to build inside the companies to the right candidates and attract them. Actually, we redesigned the headhunting process, and we created a platform that right now gets together more than 400 companies in Europe that actually tell their real truth story, and who we support in the attraction of talent digitally, and by designing a beautiful candidate experience. So just to get to the event theme that we have today, candidates are or are not customers. In a way, if I have to think to candidates as customers, we are actually, as a company, as Meritocracy, designing a beautiful experience to apply to new companies. So in a way, we treat them like customers. But on the other hand, more and more, we entered, I told you, several hundreds companies with photographers. We live in the constant harshness of entering a companies and having to tell a real story, not telling the story that the candidates for sure wants to listen to, but the real story of the company, so that at the end of the day, we can bring like a very tiny amount of candidates, the real one, the one that are really committed to that part of the story, to the companies. So we are not trying to make everyone happy. So from our side, also on the other side, candidates are not customers. So let me get to the event theme and welcome the host. Welcome all the guests. We have, I don't remember all the job titles, so I have to read it. Sorry about it. I don't want to make a mistake. Of course, we have Steven, who is head of employee experience at SumUp. So thank you for hosting. We have Deborah, who is recruitment and employer branding at Blinkist. We have Margarida, who is head of HR at Travelcircus, and we have Rita, who is head of talent acquisition at Taxfix. So the first question for you is, how do you design your candidate experience? Is exactly as your customer experience of the customer experience your company are designing or not? And I ask you to Steven, because he's the host, and this is the first one.
Thank you. How do we design our candidate experience? Okay. So I think we try to be similar to, I would say we treat candidates like customers, or we try to, or we will even try more in the future. And that's probably because basically we have a key value in the company. And well, our mission is about customers. So basically our mission is to empower small businesses and de-hassle their lives and make their lives better, basically. So everything we do is with a purpose to make businesses better and make life easier for our customers. So I think, I'm probably going off tangent, but I think with regards to the candidate experience, what we want to do is take the value that we have internally, which is like no greed. So we don't want to make people, everything that we do with the company, we don't want to do it because we think this will make us more money or this will be better for us. So we tried to design the candidate experience in a way that we're very truthful from the start, and that we're applying this no greed principle to that as well. Because I think starting the candidate experience like that, where the intention should be that we both want to kind of work together in a way. So we design the experience all the way around that principle. It means that we're going to get the best candidates that fit for us, and they're also going to be super happy when they join us as well. So I think we've made mistakes in the past, sure, like we've grown extremely fast. So when you do that, what you do is you have a tendency to say, okay, we need this many people to join us. And you kind of lose a lot of the values and principles that you're trying to do, and then you have people that don't fit or say, I'm here for the wrong reasons, and that makes everyone's job harder along the way. So I think if you design it like that, you think about your values for the customers, and you try to design around the same sorts of principles, it does make things better in the long run. Yeah, probably answers your question, right? Do I need to? I'm probably just. Anything else you want to say?
In a way, you're choosing very carefully the candidates.
Yeah.
And we as customers, the two candidates you chose very carefully.
Yeah, we're still hiring on a very large scale. So, but we definitely what we're trying to do is think about. I mean, I think Netflix have a very good approach to this. I would say. So they have some podcasts available and things like that, and I think it's great. I think the way they approach things is, even though they're scaling and going really fast, it should be super open from the beginning. And this is also how you should treat customers, right? It should be that we're not trying to. Obviously, we want them to buy our product. But we don't want the wrong customers to buy their product and then hate it and then say, that was a piece of junk, I didn't want to have that. You know, you want them to have a great experience, that they also feel like, wow, this really empowers my life and my business. So it's the same with the candidate journey as well. We want to design so that at some point you can also say, no, like this doesn't really feel right. So I'm actually going to go and take this other job. And you shake hands and you say, you know, I hope it goes well, and hopefully we see each other in a couple of years when the paths meet a little bit, when the time is right for both sides. And I think if you think about what you're trying to achieve, what I always say to the team here is, well, who do we want to be as a company as well? That's a key question. Who are we trying to be in 2 years? Like, what are we trying to do? And then that allows us to start thinking from the beginning about the candidate journey and then how we treat them through it. So I think that's always a good principle to kind of like stick to. Yeah, so we doubled in size the last 2 years. So currently we're 300 people here in Berlin, but globally we're 1,200 people, and probably in Berlin currently doing a lot of budget planning at the moment. That's why I look so tired. But we're probably going to grow to sort of around plan is around 550, 580 by the end of next year, hopefully, in Berlin.
Like hiring that many people,
yeah.
Which is the trade-off between getting like messages that are simple enough to get like a huge pipeline of candidates, and doing what you said before. So stick to your principle and not make everyone happy.
So I think that's the difference. I think we should always stick to our principles, actually, because it just won't work out in the long run. You'll just have major issues as you go further into the employee life cycle. And obviously my background is I was in recruitment, but then I was in HR business partnership and then managing HR teams. And a lot of my work as a HR business partner was seeing the issues that came from that fast growth and then not really taking the time to find the right fit for everyone. And that's not like talking about culture fit and all of these things, because I think when you explore culture, you also don't want people that are exactly the same as you. You also want to kind of look at what balance you need in the workplace. But I think it's more, if you lose those principles at the very beginning and say, okay, we just need 500 people, you're going to be really struggling to get everyone in the same direction, working as a team really coherently, people who go the extra mile for each other and really value what you do. Because I think so that's why I think if you don't treat the candidates like the customers as well, they are the people that contribute to making the product that goes to the customer, and you'll end up with a bad product that people don't enjoy to use as well, because the love that you actually put into it in the office, it's not really, things aren't working within the office. So I think the wrong kind of energies go into the product, and that also affects the customer in the long run.
Yep, thank you very much. Can I ask to Deborah, can you hear me without the mic? Fantastic.
Test. Can you hear me?
Yeah, which are, like, in your opinion for your company, the differences between like marketing your product and marketing your company to the candidates? Are there any differences?
Yeah. So, yeah. Hi. So I think what we do as well. I mean, our employer branding is really something we're starting to work on a lot now. So it's something that's definitely on my mind, and I'm thinking about how we market it to candidates. But it's definitely going to be different to our general marketing, because our general marketing, I don't know if you've seen it, but usually there'll be ads on Facebook that follow you around when you go and do your shopping in other places and things. Or a big thing for us is YouTube videos. And what we try to convey in these short YouTube videos is like how easy it is for the customer to use our product, right? So it's like, there's this SumUp device, tap, and then so it might be someone working in a cafe or something, and then they're like, okay, tap your card, and then it's done, right? So what we're trying to show is the ease of everything. But I think what you need to know, like when you actually come here, so it would be false if we said that in employer branding that, oh, everything's super easy here. So I think we need to find a way to convince, to kind of show people that actually to make it simple for the customer, it's super hard on the other side, and there's loads of things to do. So as we're thinking about employer branding, we want that kind of like lightness and really nice, like slick videos and kind of messaging. But we also want to convey that to make something so simple, it's really hard. So that's what I'm trying to do at the moment. I'm trying to think about how we would do that. We have our employer branding person coming from Brazil next week, so that's going to be a lot of my pre-Christmas work, is to
maybe just to, can you hear me? Maybe just to add to what you just said, because I think it's very important, the fact that, I mean, our selling point is that we are a one-stop shop platform where you can save time as a consumer and just buy your product, and it's very comprehensive. And then you get, and then you have our customer service who gives you a great treatment on the phone and gives you comprehensive feedback. So I think we adopted that to our recruitment process, and that's also our selling point, that we do want to give the candidates as much information as possible from the get-go about our company, us as our employer, and as well give them like a really nice lean process within the application process. No fuss, just your CV and your motivation letter, and write down your personal data, and also give them a transparent overview of our recruitment process. 4 steps, that's what you expect, that's what you're getting from us. And also really trying to be fast in the way that you give them feedback and also information, and also transparent in the fact, like for example, point of contact. Like for us in the tourism industry, it's very rare, for example, that platforms like us have their customer service number very prominent on their website, for example, because they actually just want people to book their flights or their overnight stays and don't bother the customer service. And we know that actually customer service serves also as well as a marketing tool. So we do have our customer service number very prominent on our website, as well as me plastered all over the career page with with my phone number as well as my email address, because I do think it's very important for candidates that are not sure because, I don't know, they've read the job ad, but they still have questions and want to ask a person within the HR department. So I do think that it's very important as well, because we're talking about product information. You always need to have product information, and that's the same within HR as well. You need to give them comprehensive information about your company, about the position they're applying for. So that's been our strategy, following up on what we're doing in customer service, how we want to treat our customers. That's how we want to treat our candidates as well.
So I tried to hold the mic closer to my mouth. It's working now, right? Okay, good. Yeah, it's a very intimate moment. I believe that we're all using the same mic here. Anyways, so yeah, I'm working for Taxfix. We are trying to help people to do their tax declarations like quicker, easier. And our target group are young people between 20 and 35, let's say. Because based on the research, what the funders did, they just figured that this is the group of people who just like never ever submit their taxes, like super rarely. Yeah, somebody is nodding. Yeah, I know. Yeah, so these guys are our target group. We don't want to take away, the money and the job from the tax advisors. We just wanna give people easy to use app to get back the money. So on one hand, these are our target customers. On the other hand, I wouldn't say that we are targeting the same group of people for hiring them, because then we would say, oh, we only want to have these young people working for us, and then I wouldn't be working because I'm 39 already, so I would be just outside of this. On the other hand, I believe and I agree with you guys that everyone is a customer, and then we should treat people like we want to be treated. So I often tell to my team or to hiring managers, hey guys, you should just go out there and apply for a job and you should go yourself through this hiring process just to feel the pain, like what you should be doing on the other side. Because sometimes if you are working as a recruiter, and I believe you all have this feeling, sometimes you feel just like God, right? Because you just decide about people's life, yes or no. And then actually you do that, but you do that because you have a lot of background, you have been learning a lot about that, and then you help them, because even if you say a no, you help them to get into the right direction. Yeah. What else? Anything else?
Difference from marketing the product and
Yeah.
yeah. Comes maybe under communication standpoint. So in a way, you want to get the highest number possible of youngsters in a way to buy the product, but probably I'm not sure you want the maximum number possible of people applying to the company. So how are you managing this trade-off? What is under a communication standpoint? What are you saying to people?
I mean, when we are recruiting, then we are reaching out actively to people who are a fit for the position. That's what we do a lot. Also, of course, we use the job boards and we advertise a lot, but we all know, I believe, that this is nowadays not the most efficient way of finding talent. Before I came here, I just had a very nice conversation with our head of marketing, who just joined from hotels.com, so from your industry. And I asked him, listen, Michael, what if we would just start doing targeted marketing campaigns in order to to target candidates. And then he said like, wow, that's a really good idea, but I haven't really seen that, like, you know, that other companies would do that. And I was like, yeah, I know. That's the reason why we should start doing that. And then he was like, yeah, but like, you know, from the coast side, I mean, we can't really be sure, that these are his words, that we would be able to target those kind of people who we want to reach. And then he said that probably like we would invest a lot of money, like, I don't know, hundreds of thousands of euros, and then there will be a very, very poor outcome. Yeah, please.
Yeah, we've been spending on marketing. We've been advertising last year. I mean, Meritocracy works it's similarly to a programmatic advertising platform. So we advertise on many places, and then we optimize the places that work the best. In 2017, we advertised on 128 platforms all over Europe. At the end of the day, we saw that after optimizing everything, the 42% of traffic came from social media after having optimized, so best sources. And of those, the best, like the probably best one was Instagram during the last months, and it passed Facebook. So it was more Facebook than Instagram. Now it's becoming more Instagram than Facebook, and it's working. It's working well, even under if you take a look to CPA, for example, cost per application. It's not just that like most matching people are applying through social media, but also the CPA is becoming lower than other platforms.
So actually, that was something I was telling to Michael, to our head of marketing today, that like, marketing is about generating a need, right? And how can you generate a need in somebody who is not really willing to change the job? So that's what we all are doing when we are reaching out to people on different channels. Like if we do like sourcing and direct search, but how can you just like generate a need for like with ads and targeted marketing campaigns, like, hey, like you are seeing this job ad, you are a JavaScript developer on your Instagram feed for the third time this week. And then like, how can we make you to apply for a job with this ad? Yeah.
I do believe that it's a long and painful process, because you have to actually build your brand and then wait for people to come to you. And I think if you communicate your brand, your employer brand well enough, then those people, because that's what employer branding is, targeting those people that you actually need and that you actually want in your company. So, and that you do by having a nice career page, or by using all the social media platforms and being at all these events and talking about your company culture and your USPs. And it's amazing, because I do think that social media and also Instagram is going up right now in regards to how people look for jobs. Because I've had a lot of people on job interviews that would say, oh, I stumbled across Travelcircus because of your Instagram career page, and it's so nice because you have this and blah, blah, blah. So it's a very long process, and it's also, you have to have the budget for it, because sometimes as a small company, you don't have the luxury of having all these marketing campaigns and spending all this money on like LinkedIn pushes and stuff like that. So you have to be out there and sell your company or your USPs or your company values.
You looked at me when you talked about money, so like we have loads of money. No, but I think you can even I also worked a bit out of recruitment, but I think you can also see from a different perspective, right? That it all comes down to the product as well, like what you're actually making. That's how you get the best people, right? If you can inspire them with what you're doing in the world and what you're actually making, then it doesn't even necessarily matter so much what your employer branding is some of the time, right? So I think that's why, that's also why I joined here. Like I started seeing the SumUp devices around, and then I was like, oh, that's cool. That's super interesting. It looks nice. And then you realize that this whole world around. But that's why the employer branding is totally missing, because I think it's just been relied on the product, which is great, right? I mean, that's why you could probably name a few products that you've used your whole life and you're like, I always want to work for them. Like for me, when I was younger, it was Nokia. Like I always wanted to work for Nokia. I did, then they went down. So, but no, it was a great experience. Like I loved it. Like working with the people. I was like seeing them test the phones, smash the phones, and then I was like hiring the testers and things like this. It was brilliant, and it didn't, so like just knowing the product sometimes gives you so much love for like working there. That's your dream at some point. And then I think if you can match the employer branding to show people what it's really like, that's why I said about like to show people it's a simple product, but it's actually not simple to make it. And then you get the right people because you're saying, well, we need people who want that challenge. We need people who are adaptable, who are really like able to just like come in and solve problems and help us on this journey. Then I think it all starts to match together, right?
Yeah, I would agree. Actually, it's very interesting this point because under a certain many of the brands rely on their branding to attract people to work for them. And you understand the importance of employer branding when you deal with companies who don't have a brand, or are a B2B2B, for example, or B2B businesses who don't have brands. I don't know if any of you works for a B2B company. I think very few of you. Yeah, and it's harder because maybe the brand is not spread under a consumer standpoint, so you have to invest on the other side. Can I ask you how it was probably the question from where we started, but it's really interesting to me. How did you start designing the candidate experience and in your company, and how was the process look like?
So for us, I think it doesn't work anymore. Does this work? Okay. So when I joined Taxfix in May this year, they were like 25 people. So I was like, yes, that's my chance to make the world's shortest recruiting process ever, because we only have me and the founders, and that's it. So I learned that during my years at Bubble, and before that I used to work for Prezi.com, that if you have a larger organization, everyone wants to be involved in the decision making, which is great because we love democracy. But at the end of the day, you just never end up hiring anybody because the whole process takes just forever. So for me, that was a super important key indicator. Okay, let's just do it quick. Because no one wants to spend so much time on this, and we are in Berlin, and then candidates are having fun with other companies as well, and they are just gone off the market. So that was the most important thing. The second thing was to educate the founders. They are super lovely guys, both of them 32. How are we going to do that? We should, give a candidate experience what will make people apply again and stay in touch with us, because if you are hiring somebody for a position, then you will be interviewing 20 other people, and then you just hire one, right? So all the other 19, they should exit the process with this thing oh, damn it, I just totally want to work for this company. So I believe these two things are the most important things for me.
How many steps do you have in the recruitment?
Now we have me or George. So the recruiter call, we have a second call with somebody from the team, then we have a homework and an on-site. So 4. Yeah.
So I don't think I ever sat down and said, okay, I'm going to design a candidate experience for Travelcircus. I think it was more like a learning experience, because when I started, it was the job was hire good and fast. And then with the time, we learned from the mistakes that we did in the past. And now we have a fairly standardized process. We have 4 steps. So we start with a phone interview, and then we go for an interview with the business department. And then we usually do some test cases or a trial day at our office. And the last step is usually always a small chat with the founders, because I do think when you're still a small team, it's very important that the founders know every person that you hire in the company, because they are transmitting actually the company culture. So that's those things just naturally, organically came up throughout the 2 and a couple of months that I've been with Travelcircus, just learning from mistakes that we did in the past and how we can professionalize the recruitment process, as well as having always this customer-oriented, customer-centric perspective of you want to treat your candidates as well as you want to be treated, but as well give them a transparent and fair assessment of what they ought to expect when they start at your company. Because I think we've talked about this when we were back there. Sometimes I think everybody that works in a startup has this experience. People have a very romantic idea of how the work at a startup is, and they think it's all about ping pong and beer and team events, and that's all nice and that's very great, and that builds company culture, but it's also hard work, and you need people that are willing to do the hard work, are willing to go the extra mile, and want to grow with the company. So you have to be very transparent from the beginning and tell them that, because then you have people that start and then they're like surprised, oh my gosh, I actually have to work.
And it's not only work, right? In a startup, you have to do literally everything. So it's like it's usually non-stop, 24 hours a day. So I think, the recruitment process here is probably similar. Actually, you'd be surprised to know there wasn't a proper process in place before a few weeks ago, really, here. So, even my hiring process earlier this year was the founder messaged me and said, let's meet for breakfast, and then said, right, I'm not letting you go until you accept a job. And I was like, shouldn't I meet the team first? And that was basically how it went. But so we needed to work on quality, but I mean, Andreas, who's sitting in the front, we also worked at Wooga before this, and we helped to set up a process there. And I think it's pretty standard, right? The recruiter sort of has an interview, usually a video call or something like that, and really it's more of a kind of cultural values kind of talk. And then it goes to the hiring manager, and then if there's some doubt, maybe they get someone else, but that should be then an on-site interview. And what we've added in here to try and make sure that we also align globally is that we add in some bar raisers, because it's important that people are, like here, it's part of the culture that everyone is a fast learner, is a high achiever, really wants to go the extra mile. So we've added in this concept of, it's a known concept, right? But we've added in this bar raisers. So we'll do a call with one of the, a real high performer in, say, the Brazil office, and then they'll call in and have like a bar raiser interview, and then there'll be someone who's identified as a cultural ambassador that's in that day as well. And I think the founder, actually, Mark, the co-founder, is still, you see him around in the office all the time here, and he still wants to participate in all 300, which is great because he's actually a super friendly guy. He really wants to meet everyone, so it's really nice. But yeah, so we have those steps, and then but the essence, like you said, is like transparency, and I think speed is super crucial, like especially in Berlin. I decided to leave Wooga after 5.5 years earlier in the year, and I can't tell you the amount of processes where they took a month, and then it was like, okay, we love that call, can you come to the office in 6 weeks? And I was like, well, I'll probably be unavailable in like 6 hours by the rate this is going. So it was it's because there was certain companies who were moving very fast, and there were startups also like with 20, 30 people that really had put too much stuff on top of their process and saying, oh, well, we have to do this process and you have to come in for a culture day. And I was like, in 3 weeks, and I was thinking, guys, but like you're going to miss every candidate if you take this long to know who you want, right? So especially when you're growing, it's this competition is fierce, and when you don't know, like people don't know who you are, like as a company, then it's even harder, I think. So
can I ask you, like, let's go to the process by itself. So. Did it happen in the last, let's say, months that you received a negative feedback or recruitment process? And if it happened, how did you manage it?
Should I just go quickly? Sorry, I'm hogging the mic. But there is one on my mind actually, because when you posted this event on LinkedIn, someone put a negative comment and said, "Oh, SumUp, I had a terrible experience at SumUp," and I was like, "Oh, great! I've already got like this already looks bad." But I thought, I'm pretty open with anything. So I think even if you have a problem with anything that's generally we do in the office, or like if you don't, I'm super open to like hearing from people's feedback and listening to them, and trying to also like get better with it. So yeah, I just wrote back and said, interested to hear a bit more. Yeah, we're trying to improve things, but I mean, I'm under no illusions that there will always be cases like this, right? Nothing is ever going to be perfect. Even the best recruitment team that get back to everyone and have a KPI where they, make sure they respond to everyone, there'll always be someone who's tired one day and forgets to respond to someone, or is too busy. So we just have to be open to it and just say, yeah, that sounds terrible. If I was in your position, I would be super annoyed as well. If you want to talk a bit more about it, then here's my email address. Feel free to speak to me. That's what I said to the guy. He didn't email me, but he still can. Yeah.
Did you set up a process for which, at least to certain candidates, you provide feedback, or there is a specific process, for example, for which anyone gets feedback?
Yeah, we're actually working on that now. Like, I know it sounds weird that we're so big and we're working on this stuff, but we just implemented Greenhouse, and it's a much better tool for these steps to not fall through the gaps. So we're actually putting all of these processes in place, so you get reminders to do all of these things, and it's better for communication in that way. So.
That's good. We work with them a lot, and also with the integration technology is good, and it's a good product overall.
Yeah, we used to use it at Wooger as well, and it was great. It was really, because you have a lot of like communication issues as well, usually on interview days in startups, right, or in any company. It's like, oh, I didn't know there was an interview, and someone's like hasn't prepared, and they have 2 minutes to run into the room and go, so tell me what you do. And I think Greenhouse really solved those issues, because it really organized everyone's day and told people like, okay, this is your interview pack, this is when you're interviewing, and you're like, oh, great.
Good.
Yeah.
Negative comments.
Yeah, we also do get them, and it's excruciating when you get them, but we also have the same approach that we want to learn from it, and actually are very proactive in that sense that we approach the person if we know who it is and ask for feedback. How can we improve our process? We are also very open on the platform Kununu. Usually what we do, the 2 processes that we have in place, what we do is after we hire somebody, we always send within the first onboarding week, we send them an email so that they can rate us on Kununu on how our recruitment process has been for them. So that's pretty cool, so that we can learn from people that have actually started to work for us. And what I have done, because usually with people that you are attempting to hire, you're more engaged, and if it doesn't go well, if the person doesn't accept the contract, then I usually, without being pushy, just want to know, like, why didn't it work out? Like, was it the recruitment process? Was it too long? Or was it other criteria, just so that we can get the feedback and learn from it?
Are there specific actions you took, like you put in place after receiving a negative feedback, like let's say in the last?
Yeah, I usually, like, what we try to do if the time and manpower, for example, we do a lot with Kununu, so I usually respond on every comment that is on there. And we are very active in that. That's why. Without bragging, we just found out yesterday that we've been nominated as Top Employer 2019 because of our ratings on Kununu. Within our industry, we're now placed 3rd, so that's pretty nice. And I think it's a hard tool, because usually on platforms like that, people only give negative experience, but I do think that you can use it to your advantage if you get the commitment and engagement of your employers and engage them in using those platforms to talk about their experience within your company. So that's also employer branding.
So a negative one, right? Okay. So we are working a lot with, we are using Recruity. Recruity is like the cheapest version of Greenhouse, I would say, for small companies. It's pretty good though. It is a very cool scheduling system, which is very similar to Calendly. And yeah, so we have this like a month or something, the scheduling system. And so it happens that sometimes people just don't get that like it's going to be a video call. And then they are just waiting there. And then I got some feedback about that, you know, like, can you guys just communicate in another way somehow that it's like pretty obvious that it's going to be a video call, not a phone call, or not a meeting in person. So this is something what I'm still trying to figure out how to be more precise, because like when candidates got an invite, then you just like have this location and then we just put their video link. But despite of the fact that it's there, like we still have people showing up in the office, which is nice. I mean, we are happy about seeing people in person, but like sometimes you just don't think that like it's going to be a personal interview because you set the video link. So this is kind of a technical issue, and then we got feedback about that, and we are trying to figure out how to be more precise. This is one thing, because you said like last month, but like earlier, like when I worked for other companies, we also had this issue with Glassdoor and stuff that we had like negative feedback, like, you know, the recruiter was just so late and then he didn't apologize. And then you could just feel all the emotions coming up with this feedback, right? And then, yeah, like I just asked the person, please, can you just like, you know, apologize there? And then like writing there, like on the platform, sorry, like it's really, yeah, we fucked up, sorry for that. And also apologizing like in person. But as Steven said, you know, you can try so hard. And I think that's all what you can do, like, you know, trying super hard, just being on time, regardless of having 10 interviews a day, just like, you know, keep the time. And then there will be days where you will just not manage it, right? But like, you just like give all your best, and that's what you can do.
Thank you very much. By now we said that in attraction, stop me if I'm wrong, right now we said that in the attraction of candidates, we shouldn't in some way talk to anybody, but like be easy and stick to principle, but try to attract the right people. But on the other way, like be very, very aware of the post recruiting, like post applying experience. So understand, be quick, as you said, Steven, before, and be very tight in a sense to the candidates. My question, like looking forward to the future, is which is the role of automation in building up a process that is more candidate-centric? I mean, there are tools you're using. You said Greenhouse, for example, that help you like having a more standardized process and using more technology. But in order to build up a more candidate-centric experience, which is the role of the human, and how much would you say technology will be used more and more, and like how much should your team provide a more personalized experience, or in any way like be more human, like make the process a bit more human, like looking forward?
Yeah, so I think, I think the process should always be human, right? So it should always be that the person, I mean, because you just don't feel, it's a natural response that you feel like, well, they don't care about me. Why would I choose that company? So I think obviously we need to do things to speed up our work, but what we need is savvy recruiters who understand when it is a good CV, when it is, when it's time to move fast, when it's time to take your time and keep the process open and make sure that we feed things in. So I think even when we automate more, it's going to be also much more down to the human to actually decide where do I spend my time better, right? Because of course we'll always get hundreds of applications or something, and a lot of them won't be right for the role that you've posted or you've done something. So I think we need to get better on both sides, right? We need to incorporate more automation, but then make sure that we get better at where do we spend our time and prioritize who we talk to and make those connections early on and guide them through the process really well. And I actually think on the other side, we're looking at this in Greenhouse at the moment, is one thing I'm pushing for is that we should really start to, because I don't want the recruiters to feel like I'm driven by numbers. I want the recruiters to feel like I can take time to find the best person that fits. And actually, I want the recruiters to even push back at the hiring managers and say, you shouldn't hire that person. You know, that's not a good fit for us as a company, and I'll tell you why. And they shouldn't be judged on the fact that they haven't hired someone, actually, like, in my opinion. So they should, on the other side, we need to automate to make sure that they get the freedom to spend more time on the other side of the process, right? So we should, by that I mean, send surveys out to the hiring managers. How happy are you with the process, with the recruitment process, how things are going, even during the process while it's going on, so that you know that you don't put the pressure on the recruiter to find a candidate that's not going to be right for the company. So I think if you spend also time on all aspects of the recruitment life cycle, what you'll end up with, you get the freedom then to look at better tools, to automate better, and you'll get the freedom to allow your recruiters to feel more comfortable to spend their time where they feel that their time is best spent, right? And that should all culminate in actually bringing in the best people for the company.
Would you be comfortable, for example, in changing the steps of your recruitment process?
Sure, yeah, we should.
Specifically for one person, or because you feel that kind of person can express better their his or her potential.
Yeah, I think the only step I wouldn't jump is like meeting someone, right? So like I think you should always be flexible, and you should always say, whenever you get too rigid, that's just a recipe for disaster. I think if you're just saying, no, this is how we do things, this is how we've always done things, it works like this, that is where you start making like big mistakes. You should always say, well, is this really working? Does it work in this case? Yes, no. And that's when you should put the trust in the people in your team to say, you know, Steve, this isn't working, can we change it? And you say, yeah, like, what do you want to do, right? And then it might be the case that they say, look, this candidate, we don't need to waste all these 3 steps in the beginning. Let's just bring them in because they live here. Let's bring them in, meet them, and let's make an offer, you know? Yeah.
I do think in regards to how much automation you need within your recruitment process, you have to, consider actually like, how big is your company? How known is your company? Where in the life cycle are you right now as a company? Because if I think, for example, of like big corporations, of course they get like 5,000 applications for one position, for example, and their pre-selection phase is very automated in the sense that they actually have the luxury of selecting people, just like really high potential people based on their CV. And for us, that's just not the case. We don't get 5,000 applications for one position. But at the same time, I do actually value taking a comprehensive look at the CVs and looking for the gem, because sometimes a CV might read super good, but the person that you meet afterwards is different. And that's why I think automation within the recruitment process, yes, for the handling of sending out emails or making it more easier and faster, but it will still and always be a people's business, and you need the human interaction, and you need to meet the person, you need to interact with the people, and it's, I think, automation to ease up the process, but never to take over it.
So I'm a huge fan of automation, and I'm telling you like what I mean by that. So basically using all kind of technology what we have in order to make the recruiter's life easier, What I mean is like using scheduling tools, because I don't know, like if there is anybody who started this business like 10 years ago, George, Andreas, yeah. So like, like life just was just so difficult back then, because we spent like 40% of our times on scheduling, back and forth, emailing, can you do it? No, why not? And this was just such a wasting of time, right? And then now I just love the fact that we have like Calendly, or we have the scheduler or whatever. Does Greenhouse have a scheduling tool now for that much money you are paying? Yeah, and then I think that like we shouldn't waste so much time on like the scheduling part. We should like really save this time and then use it to educate hiring managers and do interviews with them, do more interviews, like recruiter interviews. So I'm really like up for it, like, just send the link. And also it's like, it's also very good for the candidates. It's super candidate-centric, because you don't expect the candidate to choose among two availabilities. But like, you send the link and then they have like all the opportunities. They can come in the morning, during lunchtime, they can do like after work, whatever they want. Because like you can offer them like one day morning hours, the next day evening hours. It's really up to you. And then it's also super flexible, because if something comes up for them, they just like reschedule it. They don't even have to send you an email. They just take the link and then pick a new appointment. When I was interviewing at Google, I believe like 3 years ago, they already had that. And I was like, it was really blowing my mind, like, wow, how cool is that? And then we needed to wait like, I don't know, 1, 2, 3, 4 years to have Calendly, and then have integrated scheduling systems. Can I just take one thing? Yeah. When I was working for Prezi, when was that, like 5 years ago, I believe, we started to use Greenhouse. I believe Greenhouse just like came out back then. And then we started to use this automated emails, etc. But like the market, like the Hungarian market, was so much not ready for that. And I remember having this feedback from candidates like, why are you just sending us so unpersonal emails? And then, it's just like a mass email. And we were like, yeah, but like we cannot call everyone, right? And then like 5 years later, it's just totally different, because the market candidates are just like educated. I believe it's not only because like the job market is different, but like everything is becoming like super automated. And then people are totally okay with that, like receiving an automated email. Hey, thank you, we received your application, and then we will get back to you soon. And no one is complaining about that. But yeah, like keeping the people aspect, it's like super important. And I would never ever go for like recruiting AI, pre-selecting CVs for me or something like that. I don't think that's a good thing.
Can I tell you a story?
Yes, please.
There is take a look to it. There is a very beautiful an old meme on the internet. There was a drawing back in I think it was 110 years ago, in which they asked some artists to draw the future, and like they drew like they reimagined the hairdresser work as like they imagine a machine that would actually cut the hair to people, and like 120 years after, we changed everything regarding the hairdressing experience, from booking to going there with Uber, everything but the hairdresser, everything. And this is like should let us think about what is innovation and how could we improve everything in the process to let us concentrate on the most important thing, that is interacting actually with people. Sorry for stopping by, but it seemed to me interesting.
I was talking to, I was looking for a recruiter. I'm still looking for a recruiter, by the way. Sorry, I needed to say that. And I was interviewing somebody who used to work for Google. And then he said that actually, like even the huge Google, I don't know if there is anybody who worked for Google, they have like people screening CVs. So they have teams who are just like screening CVs the entire day long for 8 hours. So even they don't automate that part of the process.
I actually just wanted to post a question, because I've had the totally different experience with automated responses, not when you actually apply, but actually at the end of the recruitment process, that when you send out, for example, cancellation letters to people that haven't made the cut on different stages, that I've always gotten from some candidates the response that, well, I know this is just an automated cancellation letter and you could have done better. So I do think in that sense, I mean, it's always an issue about manpower and you have to make your process lean and fast. But at the same time, I do think that people look for human connection and want to actually talk to a real person. That's why I still sometimes, before I send out an invitation, I just call the person and just see if they can show up, because that's what the Berlin market has taught me, that you actually have to be fast. And if the application comes in and you have time, then you just take the phone.
Can I just say one thing to the feedback, because that's also a super important part of the process, I believe, once you are finishing the process with somebody. So what we do, if somebody was on an on-site, then I always ask the hiring manager to give a feedback call, and then we schedule it with the scheduling link, and then people really love it. Because it's important, that's how they learn. And then also this is part of like the human focus, I believe, in the process, that, like, okay, this time you didn't make it, but maybe you will want to give a try like in 6 months or 3 months again. And then you will have all this experience, you know your learnings, you get the feedback, and you know exactly what to improve. Yeah, well. I mean, it's also a learning and a growing opportunity for hiring managers, right? At the beginning, they were like, "Oh my God!" But then, like, they actually got the point that it's super important. And then, if somebody puts so much time and effort into an on-site, preparing like a homework or a presentation, they need to have a feedback. So, like with Taxfix, I think I'm being really lucky with the two founders, because they are like super open to that, and then they absolutely understand why is this so important.
Actually, I asked this because to me it was really important to discuss the role of technology in this. Also, when we founded the company, sometimes people get to us and say, "Look, we will never substitute humans," and we say, "Yeah, we agree totally." We use machine learning, by the way, because having to deal with usually 58,000 displays of advertising for each job search that we do, at some point we have to optimize something with using technology. But the point is, free the time to do something that is that adds really value to the time of the person that is managing the process and to the candidate experience. On the other hand, I would ask you, is there something of the, like, if you think about your dream recruiting process in a way, is there something you would add that maybe you don't have time to add now? Or is there something more you would like to learn from the candidates that for any reason, probably because the process would be too long or too difficult to manage, you would add that maybe technology can help you for the future? I know it's a difficult question, but just to have your vision, if there is something you would be interested in.
It just came to my mind that I would add a personal interview on the first place. I know it's not like feasible because people don't have time to come to the office anymore, and then they just we just do a call or we just do a video. But I'm really, really missing that when I was having the first interview for an hour, and I just took time to talk to candidates and then just explore that person. But since we are living in the technology world, we are living in Berlin, everything has to be super quick, right? Candidates don't have time to come to the office for an hour conversation because they have to work. So I would change that, but it's never gonna happen, I believe.
Maybe yes, maybe no. It depends on the willingness and how good you can automate the process of calling that candidate or that candidate. But then maybe.
Yeah.
Can I ask Margarida the same?
I think I still have to think about that, but it goes in your direction of giving the candidates from the get-go, from the beginning, a comprehensive insight to your company. And I think there are already companies that are doing this videos where you can actually see the office and have like a, how you call it, like a digital tour of the company if your office is as big as SumUp's office. Yeah, it's nice. So just to give them from the get-go like a comprehensive overview of your company, how you work, so that they already have from the beginning of the recruitment process like a feeling of what your company is about. I think that would be it.
Yeah, I would definitely add this Calendly thing. That sounds amazing. But no, I think actually I saw recently someone shared with me what Get Your Guide do. And even just when they send, would you be interested in this job? There was a really nice like candidate briefing with it, with like the history, the timelines of the company, who the founders are. I mean, that was pretty amazing, I thought, like really good, even just not even when someone's even interested. It's like, oh, we like your CV, so here's this, which I thought was very nice because yeah, you really kind of give people, like you say, you're giving people everything about who you are, and then you're really people will say, oh, that sounds great for me. So you already have a kind of match there. But yeah, I think I don't really know like specifically what it would do, but I mean anything that just like I keep preaching about, but just it's really just about the recruiters, I think, having enough time to actually spend with people and to make sure that they're really a gatekeeper for making sure that both sides are happy with this. And I think anything that we can do to free up the time there, I think it makes it such a better process. And yeah.
I'm asking you because of course like the best option ever would be if we had time to spend one day in our life with every candidate. I mean, then you can learn everything, what they want to do, their potential, and so on.
But if you didn't like the candidate straight away, it would be a terrible experience. Yeah, and then you're like, oh, what should we do for the next 23 hours? But no, it's definitely nice. I mean, I think any way you can spend more time with them right early on is nice, because then I think you can also have this open and transparent conversation. Like I do it many times. I say, does it really feel like the right fit to you? And we talk about it, like, why doesn't it, like, and I just like to kind of create this like open conversation, and that's how I kind of do with my team. And then I'm usually faster in the recruitment process because I've already had this open conversation, and the other person feels like I had a nice conversation, or hopefully, but like in general, it's like, I try and tell them a lot about the company early on. I tell them even when I'm interviewing for my team, I even tell them about my plans for the team. I don't really hold anything back. I'm like, okay, this is what I want to do. This is how I see this role progressing in the next year. This is how we want it fits into the company in the bigger picture. Does it sound interesting? Is it something like you feel like that's how you want to go as well in your career? And there may even be like good feedback from their side to say, well, I would see something different and maybe you should change this. And you're like, oh, you have a bit of more of a sparring kind of session. I prefer, rather than me just asking questions like, and tell me about this. And I think just opening it up right from the beginning makes it a much better process.
To get them more comfortable, maybe quicker, so that you can have this sort of sparring.
Yeah. We even call I mean, it's a bit cheesy, but we call the interviews when we do we call them mutual interviews, even at the beginning when we send the invite, because we feel that it like puts it on the right message, right? It puts it on the right, I don't know what I'm trying to say, platform, that it's not just us interviewing you. You should come and bring something, and we should have an open conversation where we both think, oh, that was a really good hour. You know, even if I don't actually want to work there, I enjoyed my time there, and I would say, you know what, you should maybe apply for SumUp. It might be an interesting company for you.
Fantastic. Would you add something, maybe?
Maybe in the same direction as that. I mean, we've totally abolished the fact that we do interviews like in conference rooms with table, because it just feels too stiff. We have like a lounging area where you sit on sofas, so that it makes the candidate feel more comfortable, at ease, that it doesn't feel like it's an interrogation. It's more like an exchange of ideas. We want to get to meet you. You have to get to meet us before you make a decision. So we don't do interviews in conference rooms anymore.
Yeah, I mean, back then in May, when the founders of Taxfix did have like more time than they do now, they used to take out candidates for lunch. And then I was really amazed by that. It was really, really cool. And then now what we do is, we did that last week actually. We had a girl from an on-site from a different country, and then we did all the interviews in the afternoon, and in the evening, the entire team just went out for lunch. And then she accepted the offer. So it was really great. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Just one last question from me. Then I know we have many professionals in the public, and I would ask you to ask some questions if you have some. My last question would be, in the moment in which a candidate get hired, it means that in a way, as a companies, you sold them a professional journey, right? So they accept to spend their whole time and talent with you until the point they get out of the company. So it means that in a way, you are, while they are working in the company, you are still managing the candidate experience. Okay. What do you do to make sure like their professional journey within the company is the same they were expecting? Like, what is your process to do this?
Yeah, so that's a big topic for me, but I always stress that we shouldn't, and I think I've kind of always pushed for this, is that we always stress that we're completely honest, right? It's what I said before, but we shouldn't. The worst times in my career have been when people have said, promise things to people. Oh, I should have a salary increase by this point, and I was told I would do this, and it's like, just to convince someone to come, and then you spend the next 6 months or a year just trying to solve something that will never. It's already broken, the relationship, right? So you can't repair it really. It actually becomes more and more toxic. So I think it's just the honesty at the beginning, and then just making sure. And I always say, like, the recruiter is even like a better HR business partner for that early part of the journey as well, because the recruiter has built up the experience and the relationship with that person. So they should be really, take them for a coffee, see what's going on. Usually people have relocated. Ask them, like, how was it? Is it, are you settling in here? I also then send reminders for the manager to do the same thing and make sure that they're well looked after, that it's clear, like, do you know what is expected of you here? And asking questions like that. And like, if it's not clear, then sit in a room together and work out then what is not clear. And I think it's essential as well in the onboarding process that you really show your vision, your values, what you're trying to achieve, where this person fits into the company as well. And that usually, and where they can access information is always important as well, so that they can scale up quickly and get on board and add value. Because when you join a company, you just want to add value, right? Straight away, you're like, how do I make this place better? How do I add value here? And it's really frustrating for people when they've either been missold or that they can't find a way to add value because they can't access things and they don't know where they should do things. And I mean, the best people tend to find a way, right? But still, it's much better for everyone if it's clear at the beginning, and you can take like a massive role in doing that, right?
Yeah, I do think that when you actually successfully recruited somebody, that's when the hard work starts, because like the first month of an employee at a company is like the critical one. And that's when you actually have to give them all the information, all the instruments that they need to be successful within their job. So I am very proud of our onboarding process, because we do have sort of like the business unit onboarding process where it's more like technical, and we have like a typical onboarding week that is planned by HR, where every new candidate actually goes through all the business units within our company and meets every team lead of every department, so that they can get a comprehensive overview of how of who we are, how we work, how each department works, what the processes are, who is your contact person for this and that topic. And we also always have one person, well, you have your team lead, of course, who is always your contact person, but we also have always one onboarding buddy who is somebody that is well connected within the company, knows everybody, can like take you on your first lunch and show you around and be like your go-to person. So that works very well. And I think that's very important because sometimes when you get bigger, you lose the concept of how actually the whole company works together. So I think that's very important to get from the get-go an overview of the contact persons and also who does what and who do I have to call when I have this problem.
So I think that works quite well because we are still very small. I don't know what's going to happen if we're gonna be like 200, but like we have like now I believe 4 or 5 hiring managers, like 2 founders and then 3 heads. And so they are super engaged in the recruiting process, and also later on they take care of their people. You know, they sit together, they go out for lunch, they have beer. So the whole connection and communication is being very transparent. Of course, me, I'm checking in with my hires and then like take them out for lunch or coffee, like how is it going? But that's going to be a challenge when we are growing, I believe, like how to keep this super personal connection and transparent communication.
I just wanted to add one point. Also, it's very important when you, for example, hire somebody that has like a long notice period, like for example 3 months, and you have to actually wait 3 months until the person starts. It's very important to keep in touch during that period with that person and call and see how they're doing and just keep the contact so that they know, okay, they're taking care, you are taking care of them. Like for example, we have now 2 people starting in January and February, and our way of showing like our appreciation is like, for example, inviting them already to our Christmas party. So just to like not lose the contact and just like wait until they start, because 3 months can be a long time.
Thank you. Are there any? This is the time for Q&A. So I mean, I know there are a few professionals in the public. Please feel free to ask any questions to the speakers. Yeah, also this is possible. Are there any questions first?
It's more of a general question. Do you all know Bamboo HR? Yes. Okay. Cool. I work in a smaller company, and some employees are complaining about the fact of having their personal data on a and to giving their personal data to a company that is in the UK. Did that ever happen to you? How do you manage these kind of issues with personal data and HR tools?
Hello. Yeah, so I mean, we use Bamboo as well, and I think that's come up before. But in general, I mean, what are the alternatives, right? The alternative is probably a spreadsheet or something. So it's like, which one's safer? I mean, so I think it's just one of those things where I mean, it's kind of, you could even just ask or just say, what are your concerns, and find out a bit more about what their concerns are. Usually they can be quite easily alleviated because usually their concerns are unfounded, right? It's GDPR compliant. They have a lot of clients in Europe and they don't want to lose those clients, right? So actually it's a lot more safe than many other ways of doing things. And it's just as safe as any of the big ones, I would say. Worked with them for quite a number of years. So I also went through a lot of the GDPR stuff with them as well. And yeah, it's with the servers and things like this, it's not, I wouldn't worry too much, but you just have to understand where their concerns come from, right? Some people are more paranoid about data than others, obviously, and then you just have to listen and understand. But every company has to work with a HR system at some point. It's just a matter of which one. We had a similar thing actually recently. We just put a new system on the doors where you have to unlock it with an app on your phone. and it caused uproar with some of our employees who wanted to, like, why should I download an app and then you know where I am? Are you going to track my data? And are you going to see when I'm in bed and all this? I was like, yeah, like, I really don't care. Just come to the office, and then that's just no. But it turns out like we had to get some cards, right? For some people, you have to find alternatives. Like, well, what's the problem? And then yeah, there are some obviously data protection concerns with stuff like that. So then there's an alternative usually for a lot of this stuff.
Yeah, we're also right now in the process with the whole GDPR and data security. And I think the best way of handling it is just to be open about how, why, and what kind of data you're handling. And I mean, we're right now setting up this HTML site where we want to, once the candidate applies to our position, they get informed of how their data is handled within the recruitment process, so that they are guided throughout the process and know who and why we're using their data. But as well, once the candidate turns into an employee, it's also very important to inform them what kind of data we are actually using on Bamboo HR, and also to get their approval for that. That's very important.
What I usually have is like from candidates asking for deleting their data, and then actually in Recruity you have a notification after 6 months that the candidate has expired, and then you just delete the data and then inform them.
But you can keep employee data for longer than candidate data.
Yeah.
I think it's 10 years.
Yeah.
So you're safe.
For the candidates we have we have two main markets, Italy and Germany. For the ones we have in Italy is 2 years for us, so you have to delete it after 2 years.
Is there the recruitment platform as well? Okay, right. I was just talking about the employee data.
No. We need that notification after 6 months, so we might change to Recruiting.
Do we have questions?
Hi. Maybe you can tell us about active sourcing in your process, and maybe each of one could give me a number because you're in Germany. We like numbers, and yeah, maybe you can start and give me your number and the number of percentage you use active sourcing. Maybe we can say, okay, you have experienced hires in this kind of fields, you're using active sourcing, I think. And in this, and then you can say, okay, 20% we use it for IT positions.
I would have to say I genuinely don't know. Because, but if you want, I can give you my email address, and then I can ask the head of recruitment to message you about it, and they can let you know.
Well, for us, I believe it's like 30, and like 40, something like that, meaning that 30% of the candidates we hire are sourced candidates, 30% are coming from employee referrals, and 40 is like anything else, let's say like agencies applying and stuff like that, roughly.
I would say a rather small number of employees that come to us are recruited through active sourcing. And a large number of IT candidates that we recruit come from recruiting agencies. But I think the experience that we had with active sourcing is because for a long time I was the only HR person, so lack of manpower just to get those numbers up that you need for active sourcing. But now I have a beautiful support, so she's doing active sourcing, and what we've encountered with active sourcing is that actually I think the market is so saturated and people are just so tired of receiving emails from recruiters through LinkedIn and thing that you actually have to invest much more time that you actually thought that you needed for active sourcing, and really look at the profiles and really see what sticks out to you, and really try to cater to them individually. So that already takes a lot of time. And so far, what we've been doing a lot is just like really connecting to the whole Berlin startup scene, and seeing how we can get leads from other parts, and from connecting with other people, other companies. But active sourcing hasn't been successful for us.
I would just add here something. So the importance of referrals. We just came up with this idea, I believe, 2 months ago, that we said, first we wanted to have a referral program. We thought, maybe we should just, like give some money to people. And then I did like a little research in the kitchen. And then I asked people, like, there were like 10 people, like, what do you want? What do you want? What do you want? And then like we figured out that they actually don't want money. So that was surprising. And then they said like, yeah, I actually would like to have the newest iPhone. I was like, okay. Wrote it down. And then, the other person wanted to have like an iPad and so on. So I went to Matis, to the founder, and told him, listen, here's the list. That's what they want. And then they said, okay, then like, let's do that. So that's how we started to do this referral program. And then it's been quite successful. So like people keep coming to us and then like, hey, it's my friend. We also need a lot of tax experts, right? It's like even harder to find an IT specialist. And and then we just keep hiring these tax experts and other people, and people just like run around in the office with the newest iPhone. Also, and then we were like, okay, what if everyone does have like the newest iPhone? Like what comes next? But like hopefully Apple is going to like come out with the newest iPhone again next year. So yeah. And then one more thing. So we were like, oh, shall we just differentiate between positions? And we were like, no, we don't want that, because it's like a tag on your face, right? Like you are only worth like a, I don't know, €200 Amazon voucher. No, we don't do that. So like doesn't matter for. Yeah, exactly, or like an iPhone SE or whatever. Yeah, so no, like everyone just gets an iPhone or like an iPad or whatever they want, right? Regardless of the position and of the level, and then it works really, really well. So I think that's a super cool thing. And also start to use your own network. If you have been doing recruiting for a while, you don't have to reach out to like people, strangers. You just like start to use your memory, because like regardless of the data protection law, your memory just like keeps remembering candidates like 3 years ago, like okay, I interviewed that nice person. And then you just like start from your own network, and then you go further, and you can teach that also to your hiring managers and to your interviewers, to the entire team, because you don't have to do this whole hiring on your own, because you have a team. Just teach them, give them the tools, and then like everyone is happy about an iPhone.
Do we have any more questions? Maybe one on the back? No? Okay, so why don't we have a beer or something to eat or some food? I just wanted to say thank you to every one of you for participating. Hope it was interesting. Our idea was to get a bit more in deep on candidate experience. What shall we say to candidates, or shall we not say? In my opinion, what we can get home with is that we can learn something from considering candidates as perfect customers, so the company going perfectly towards them, and we can learn something also by not considering candidates at all as customers. So setting rules and principles to which they should stick if they want to work in our company. As I said before, this has been difficult also for us, having toured more than 400 companies in Europe and trying to show them and reach the right people. But at the end of the day, we saw that the more tough we were in telling the story of a company, the more people could stick to the message and be very good and aware candidates to the company. And also we saw the more we were real in telling the story of the company, the more the application rate on the website would rise, in spite of telling to the candidates the story they wanted to to year, if we told the right story and the true story, candidates rate, like application rate on the website would rise, and we processed last year 300,000 of applications of the website. So we have a big statistical numbers to say that. So thank you very much for participating, and please enjoy the beers and the food. Thanks a lot.